Okay, we're gonna get started. We're good? We're ready? Good. No. Yes. Good morning. My name is Chantal Stevens, and I'm the Executive Director of the ACLU of North Carolina. The decision to lift the injunction and allow a ban on abortion after the 20th week of pregnancy to take effect is a judicial overstep that will have lasting and devastating effects on countless North Carolinians. This drastic decision was literally uncalled for, as the state officials sued in this case did not challenge this injunction. North Carolina already has several other laws that unreasonably restrict access to abortion, including a 72-hour waiting period, which is one of the longest in the country. Reinstating this ban after the 20th week of pregnancy, a ban which contains no exceptions for rape or incest, put lives at risk and will worsen existing disparities, pushing abortion out of reach for most of our vulnerable community members. Lifting this injunction will cause an immediate threat to both public health and personal freedom. We already know that banning abortion does not eliminate the need for this kind of care. Rather, it forces people to seek abortion outside of the healthcare system. Further, the brunt of these restrictions have fallen and will continue to fall on the most marginalized people, people of color, and those trying to make ends meet. The politicians passing abortion bans aren't going to stop there. They're also attacking our right to use birth control, who to love, our right to vote, protest, and control what we learn in the classrooms. We at the ACLU will never stop fighting for every North Carolinian's right to their own bodily autonomy. We have been fighting for this battle since before Roe and will continue to do so using the full force of the organization. We will continue to fight in the courts, in state houses, in Congress, at the ballot box, and in the streets. Not just today, but for the foreseeable future. An overwhelming majority of North Carolinians are with us, and together we have the power to fight back. We will continue to lead with our values and our unshakable belief that life-changing decision to carry and bear a child is a personal choice, not the choice of politicians. Our future depends on it.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Julie Von Hafen, and I represent District 36 here in the Wake County. Abortion is a common and essential healthcare service. Nearly 1 in 4 American women will have an abortion by the time they're 45. Unfortunately, with the Dobbs decision overturning Roe, pregnant people across the country will no longer have the access to the healthcare that they need and, frankly, that they deserve. Since Roe was overturned, many people have looked to North Carolina as one of the few remaining states in the Southeast where abortion is still legal. With the decision of the federal court yesterday, both North Carolinians and other patients seeking care in our state will no longer be able to access it after the 20th week of pregnancy. North Carolinians who need this life-saving care will be forced to travel out of state, and those who would otherwise travel to North Carolina for abortion care will be forced to travel even further. Abortions after 20 weeks represent about 1% of all abortions. Although a vast majority of abortions occur very early in pregnancy, there are many reasons why someone may need an abortion after the 20th week. These personal decisions should be valued and respected. Every person's circumstances are different, and every pregnancy is unique. That's why when it comes to individual people's personal medical decisions, one-size-fits-all laws do not work. All abortion bans, regardless of when they start, are extreme and put politicians in control of people's personal medical decisions. State politicians will try to pass this particular ban off as reasonable, but the truth is that this will harm patients, especially those with complex pregnancies. And the bottom line is that we should never compromise on people's fundamental rights. What is so extremely frustrating about the continued attack on our rights is that absolutely nothing is being done to support women in our state after they are forced to give birth. We still haven't expanded Medicaid. Senator Murdoch, who's here with me today, and I have filed many bills to protect women and the health and well-being of families in North Carolina, including the North Carolina Momnibus Act, the Healthy Pregnancy Act, and the Menstrual Equity for All Act. All of these bills would help women and children thrive and stay healthy prepartum, postpartum, and throughout their lives. None of these bills has even been considered. We will continue to fight for women in this state by respecting their personal decisions, staying out of the exam room, and supporting them in whatever decision they make for their lives. This is just the start of what's to come in North Carolina should anti-abortion lawmakers regain a supermajority in North Carolina. If they are successful in their efforts, they will not stop here. Voters across the state must know that the true goal of politicians behind this ban on abortion later in pregnancy is to ban abortion entirely. Leaders in the General Assembly have already publicly indicated their intent to do just that should Republicans regain that supermajority in November. But legislators like Senator Murdoch and myself will continue to tell North Carolinians that they matter, that we trust them to know what's best for their own bodies, their own families, and their own lives. Thank you.
Senator Natalie Murdoch out of Durham, and really honored, but wish it was for a better occasion to join Planned Parenthood, ACLU, my colleague in the General Assembly, Representative Von Hafen, on this day, which unfortunately we knew it was coming, but now that it's here, we have to speak about the injustice that just occurred on yesterday. While our climate is heating up, the cost of living is soaring, and the nation's infrastructure is falling apart, they sit around and plot to deny my right to reproductive freedom. North Carolina is the latest in a long line of states enforcing extreme abortion bans. Republicans' despair over controlling our lives has distorted the truth about the role of government and the rule of law. Government should be an instrument for good, and the laws we pass as legislators are to protect people and to serve them. We are not here to deny those in need of social services and quality care from healthcare professionals who can give them the best advice in the worst scenarios. All abortion bans harm a patient's right to choose, regardless of when they start. They are not reasonable. Restrictions to abortion access do not address pressing economic, social, and environmental conditions that make it harder for women to have the medical care they need. Lawmakers should not be driving personal medical decisions. Instead, they should create laws to make it easier for birthing people to have the information they need to make the right medical decisions. And as my colleague just summarized beautifully, so many bills that we have filed to provide better health care for birthing people, for mothers, for children, even to provide reasonable accommodations for birthing people in the workplace haven't even been honored with a hearing or serious consideration. Well, they're on our state turf now, and I'm sure am ready to fight back. I feel confident that we will win this fight, but it will be long. But I know everyone is up to this task, especially those that are standing here today. We have endured 3 years of a generational pandemic, managing households, homeschooling children, caring for families and ailing patients, working full-time. Women and women of color led marches and championed nation's expansion of civil rights. We overcame an incompetent president and conspiracy theorists and lawmakers. We are brave, bold, and beautiful. So I do know now that we will again turn struggle into success and understand what it takes to elect the right people to defend our rights, expand our rights, and not roll them back. When President Biden and Vice President Harris and Democrats in Congress, they've shown us how to fight against these sort of oppressive and restrictive laws. They've worked to expand healthcare access and economic opportunity, and investing billions in combating climate change, addressing inflation, and trillions of dollars for infrastructure projects. Those are the sorts of issues that we should be focused on, opposed to trying to control the bodies of women. I have full confidence that the President's task force on reproductive health care access will leverage all of the federal government resources to protect and expand reproductive freedom for all. Legal restrictions on abortion care have harmful, punitive effects on the people that are affected. These fall mainly on specific groups, particularly those facing the most barriers to health care: young people, people with low incomes, and people who look like me, and only exacerbate existing inequality. We should expand access to health care, not punish those who need it most by forcing them to travel out of state for critical health care. Senate and House leadership made this request of the courts, and they are just getting started. A 20-week ban is just the beginning. If Republicans gain a supermajority, a total abortion ban in North Carolina could very well be on the table. We will continue to fight each day and at the ballot box to make sure that this doesn't happen this fall.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Maya Hart, and I'm the North Carolina coordinator with Sister Song Women of Color Reproductive Justice Collective. Reproductive justice is defined as the human right to maintain personal bodily autonomy, have children, not have children, and parent the children we have in safe and sustainable communities. Quality, accessible abortion care is reproductive justice. The reinstated ban on abortion after 20 weeks is violent and advances the racist onslaught against people across the state of North Carolina and the South broadly. Any ban on abortion violates the dignity and humanity of working class people, those living in rural areas, Black folks, people of color, women, and queer and trans people. Abortion is essential health care that everyone deserves access to, whether it be early on or later in pregnancy. With abortion being further restricted and criminalized in North Carolina, we know what the outcome will be for our people. Some women and birthing people will be forced to carry their unwanted pregnancies to full term, potentially threatening their own lives and well-being. Pregnant people within North Carolina who need this life-saving care will be forced to travel out of state, and folks across the South who plan to receive care in North Carolina will be forced to travel even farther. The cost of this travel alone is expensive, without even considering access to transportation, childcare, and the cost of the procedure itself. Abortion bans and other barriers to abortion do not stop abortions from happening, and they will not. Our people will continue to seek the health care they need to live their fullest lives, and it is up to all of us to ensure they can do so safely. Sister Song calls on everyone who cares about bodily autonomy and reproductive freedom to do all we can to defend abortion, push back against this tide of violence, and fight for a world where reproductive justice is not just the vision, but our reality. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. My name is Jillian Riley, and I'm the North Carolina Director of Public Affairs for Planned Parenthood South Atlantic. Abortion bans do not prevent the need for abortions or address the reasons people seek them in the first place. They do nothing to address the underlying economic, social, or environmental conditions that shape pregnancy decisions, and in fact, serve to exacerbate them. Abortion bans push people seeking abortions later into pregnancy, creating more need for later abortions in pregnancy. People need abortion care later in pregnancy often because of two factors: new medical information and barriers that delay their care. People learn new medical information later in pregnancy that they couldn't have known before, like recognizing a pregnancy later or learning about a fetal anomaly or a maternal health diagnosis, which can present a medical emergency. Life does not always go as planned. Someone may not find out that they are pregnant until pregnancy has progressed, which delays their health decisions, including whether to end a pregnancy. This is much more common than people think and may be caused by a number of factors, including medical conditional stress, irregular menstrual cycles, inequitable access to health care, or other reasons. Once patients discover that they are pregnant and try to access care, they face obstacles such as cost, existing restrictions on care, including the medically unnecessary 72-hour waiting period that we have in North Carolina, travel, distance to clinics, and more that can delay their ability to access timely care. Young people are especially likely to find out that they are pregnant later in pregnancy because having irregular periods is incredibly common for young people. Banning abortion after the 20th week of pregnancy will force some people to take on the significant risks that come with pregnancy and childbirth. Those risks could be deadly, especially for Black women who, because of systemic racism in our maternal health system, are 3 times more likely than white women to die or suffer severe complications during and after pregnancy. The strategy of the abortion opponents is clear. First step, put up unnecessary barriers that force patients to delay care, such as mandatory waiting periods, and then ban abortion earlier and earlier in pregnancy to stop people from being able to access care at all. These bans represent political interference in personal health decisions at its worst. This is just the start of what's to come for North Carolina, should anti-abortion lawmakers regain a supermajority in the General Assembly. If they are successful in their efforts, they won't stop here. They will try to take away all North Carolinians' reproductive freedom as soon as they are sworn in January, and that is what they've told us. We must protect Governor Cooper's ability to veto anti-abortion legislation and any restrictions on abortion care. Every person and every pregnancy is different. We need to acknowledge the complexities of medical decisions and listen and respect patients and their families and our doctors. Forcing someone to continue a pregnancy against their will is a violation of their basic human right, their humanity, and their freedom. We'll now take questions.
One of the arguments I've heard from the other side is there are exceptions included in this, so for medical emergencies, so on and so forth. Tell me why that's not enough.
So this does not include exceptions for medical emergencies. The only exception it includes is if a person's life, a pregnant person's life, is at risk of death or severe impairment upon irreversible changes to their body. But it does not include medical exceptions such as fetal anomalies or maternal health diagnoses that could lead to their death.
As far as the pro-life side of this issue goes, when this ruling came down, you could see how that side of this argument would view this as a victory, right? Because they're still stopping abortions at some point. What would you say to those people? Because in my mind, I imagine they're going to continue to fight for an even stricter abortion ruling, saying that it needs to be even earlier. So what would you say to that, knowing that they're going to continue to push for an even stricter measure?
Abortion bans do not stop the need to have abortions. And we know that their plan, the anti-abortion plan, are to have shorter and shorter time periods on pregnancies and on abortion bans. And it's incredibly dangerous to have more restrictions on abortion. But we know that come January, that is their plan, is to introduce more restrictions, which is why we encourage people to go out and vote for candidates that support reproductive freedom.
This was a shocking ruling for many people. They thought that we were pretty safe here until at least November. So I guess, can you kind of talk to me a little about your reaction when you heard this last night? And many people thought that we were a safe haven, and now we're just sort of not. So what do you have to say to people who want to travel here and maybe now have to travel other places?
It's incredibly disappointing. North Carolina is still a critical access point for abortion. Abortion is still legal up until that 20-week mark, and we still are encouraging folks to, regardless of where they're at in their pregnancy, to be able to come to Planned Parenthood and talk through your options. And we will still see an influx of people coming from out of state to access care, where in other states there are stricter and more dangerous abortion bans on the books. But we know that this isn't where they're going to stop. And we have to continue to hold the line and Governor Cooper's veto in order to make sure that we have critical access care in North Carolina.
Virginia is considering a ban up to 6 weeks. So I guess Maryland and D.C. will be the closest places after 20 weeks. Is that correct?
Right now, folks in North Carolina who need an abortion after the 20th week can go to Virginia or absolutely to D.C.
Yeah, honestly, to your point of the previous question, a lot of folks were surprised. Unfortunately, we were not. As soon as Roe fell, we immediately knew we had a 20-week ban that wasn't joined in court. Now that is no longer. And I think it's a wake-up call. I think that particularly voters under 50, their entire life they have had the right to have safe and legal abortions. And I think that you can easily take democracy for granted until that's ripped away from you. So the Democratic strategy is going to show the majority leaders are not moderate. They're not moderate. They are extreme. They are just getting started. The 20-week ban will just be a start. We know that with the supermajority, it could be a complete ban. It could be a 6-week ban. We don't know. So our message to voters is we need that balance in government. We know we cannot, it'd be difficult to take a chamber this cycle, but we do know we have razor-thin barriers that prevent us from being back in a super minority. So our message is holding those 3 seats in the House, those 2 seats in the state Senate. On the call-in this morning, was talking to one of those Senate candidates, telling them we're here, we're with you, and so we're taking that message directly to voters that you need to ensure that North Carolina does not go back to extreme Republican control. It would not be balanced, it would not be thoughtful, and it definitely would not have any considerations for women and birthing people at all.
I would just add that I feel like the decision last night, I heard from people that they were really not even understanding why this was happening now. And it was very disappointing that this case was reopened by the judge. It was not asked for by either of the parties. And so, I think, again, it's a wake-up call for people when they woke up this morning and thought, oh, why did the abortion laws change again in North Carolina? I think it's also the point that this is more confusion for patients seeking care in our state and around North Carolina. That is why the Dobbs decision was so incredibly damaging to healthcare in this country, because women across the country don't know what the law is in their state. And now in North Carolina, there's even more confusion about when you can seek care. And that's really why these abortion bans are so damaging.
Okay.
What do you think the practical impact of this decision is going to be on abortion providers? I mean, do you actually see this law being enforced in some way on them? Will abortion providers have to self-regulate, I guess, to comply with the law? What's going to start happening?
So this 20-week abortion ban went into effect immediately. So we have already changed our practices at Planned Parenthood to abide by this law. And absolutely, we will see patients being impacted. They will have to travel across state lines in order to access this very critical, life-saving, necessary care.
Just general reaction question from anyone. Just talk about the feeling, the overall feeling for abortion activists right now, and what's going through their minds, especially here in North Carolina.
We're motivated. We are motivated and we are ready. We know that January is coming. If they get a supermajority, they will introduce an abortion ban. We don't know what level of restriction it could be, but I think if we've seen anything, nothing's off the table, and we are prepared.